If you came here looking for a normal tournament tactician, you're going to have to go back and check out last week's, which is totally fine because it still rings true, everything that I had said. Check out War Room if you want to get updated on the meta and how to prep for any upcoming events you have this weekend. Thiagostat is hosting an open, which I do not remember the name of, but I will have in the description below if you want to sign up for that. Instead, this week we are going to be taking a look at my preparation process going into a tournament that I will be playing later tonight. It's currently 2 a.m. on Friday, and I will be participating in Giant Slayer TV's Fight Night. That's an 8-man invitational, 2-deck, no-ban region lock. And I am going to spend this time walking you all through my tournament preparation process so you can get a little bit behind the scenes look of me sort of practicing what I preach. So these are the participants for this week's upcoming Fight Night. If you're familiar with the tournament scene, you should recognize most of these. We have Deech, Mr. Emotional, Adeltrocity, Jade Tamanda, Blazing Asian, Ian Nagara, Insolinato, and myself. So the first thing I did was try to figure out, because this is an invitational, figure out what my opponents would be running, do a little bit of scouting. So I have a little sheet here of what I thought everybody would be running. So Deech ran Invoke and Swain in the previous Fight Night where he was the champion. Mo ran Wraiths and some kind of aggro deck in the last 2 Fight Nights. Last week he ran Discard aggro. 2 weeks ago he ran Scouts. So I know that he's going to be running some kind of aggro deck alongside his Wraith deck because currently the Wraith list being run is Mo's. Insolinato is fresh off of a win in the OLS playing Wraiths, Draven, Swain, and FTR. And I pretty much figured that FTR is not going to be a Fight Night style deck. So I'm expecting Insolinato to be on Draven, Swain, and Wraiths. Blazing Asian, I have no information on him as of late. He really hasn't played in tournaments lately, at least that I've seen. Haven't, really seen his name in a top cut. And for some reason, I just got a gut reaction that this guy was going to play Draven, Ezreal, and Scouts. I have no information, no reason to go off of this. It was just kind of, I've seen Blazin play a lot. This is just kind of what I felt he would be running. There's a decent chance that he's running Burble Fish Gohard as well. I know that he was pretty big on that deck when the build started to come out for it. So, could be a misread, not that big a deal. Jay Tamanda, probably should have scouted him more. I believe he's going to be my round 1 opponent because there is a seeding process. So, highest seed plays low seed. Jay Tamanda, I believe, is the highest player out of all of them on ladder. I was plat 1 when the ladder snapshot was taken, so I'm pretty sure I'm 8th seed. He should be 1st seed. He's been playing in the LRA, if I'm not mistaken, but I didn't want to honestly pour too much time into all the research because I felt like it didn't matter as much. But his most recently played deck on ladder was Gohard, so I pegged him enough for that one. And then Adeltrocity recently won the RCO Invitational with Wraiths, Draven, Ezreal, and Field of Mina. So figure Wraiths and Draven, Ezreal. So what you can see here is that there are a lot of missed Wraiths in this tournament. Really not as much Invoke as you might expect. But for the most part, it's a pretty solved meta. I'm not expecting anything too crazy. Obviously, there's opportunities for these players to play other things because a lot of this information is coming from 3-deck formats, and as I had mentioned, 2-deck formats are a lot more counter pick heavy. Now, I had joked with a friend earlier on that, as soon as I got invited, that I was probably going to end up playing Invoke and Draven Swain. I wanted to test some other things, so Wednesday night I did a bunch of testing with some friends. Nothing too crazy was working out, and eventually I did decide on Draven, Swain, and Invoke. So first I had to decide how I was going to approach this tournament because I'm pretty sure I'm expected to go 0-2. All of these guys have been grinding Runeterra a lot harder than I have. They have tournament experience. Most of them are familiar with the 2-deck no-ban format, something in which I don't cover every week. I focus on tournaments that you guys are going to be prepping for and formats you guys are going to be prepping for. And while I've brought up Fight Night in the past, I've mentioned time and time again that it's a much more self-contained meta. It's much more anti-lineup, and it's possible that I should have gone harder on countering missed rates, but I couldn't find a deck that I really liked that was doing that. I tried a couple of box Shadow Isle decks because it's one of the best ways to deal with not only Mist Wraith, but the Harrowing because everything else still died to the box. But ultimately, I couldn't land on anything that I felt good about. I tried Gohard. I really tried to like Gohard, but it just wasn't doing it for me. So I did, sort of default on the comfort decks. I could have brought memes. I very well could have brought memes, but I just don't have it in me as a person. And honestly, I felt like it would have been disrespectful to the people that invited me for me to just show up and not even try. So I am going to try my best. So I brought 2 very safe decks, 2 very comfortable decks in Draven, Swain, and Invoke. Now I was going to play Shadow Isle Invoke. I audibled over to a Invoke Plaza list. So let's start off with my Draven, Swain deck. It's pretty normal, except I don't play Mystic Shot, and I play 3 copies of Get Excited. I actually messaged a friend, and I was like, hey, Can you talk me down off of this? Because I value your opinion about Draven PZ decks. I know that you're a good player on this list. Like, what do you think of this decision? And he wasn't really making points that were convincing me. And while I respect his opinion, ultimately I decided to just play the greedy list and go for the triple get excited, because Mystic Shot isn't really killing a lot in the format. Yes, it is supposed to be good against mist wraiths, but in the testing that I was doing, I was running into a problem a lot where my Mystic Shots were just not doing anything because they are running 3 Pale Cascade and 3 Mark of the Isle currently. And while that does not help, or at least Mark will still counter Get Excited in 9 out of 10 circumstances, at least I can still kill a Mist Wraith through Pale Cascade, but it also helps a lot more in the PZ Noxus decks for a lot of reasons. I get to kill your Dravens at fast speed, your Sump Treasures, it's another 3-drop, and I really wanted to take advantage of the Ignitions out of Ballistic Bots, the Chump Wump Shrooms, the Draven Axes. I really felt like a lot of times in the late game I was getting a lot of the fake cards with no payoff, and I just felt like Mystic Shot wasn't doing anything in 9 out of 10 matchups. It softens things up. Yeah, Get Excited is greedier, but Mystic Shot itself is just not self-contained killing what I need it to kill. Get Excited works so much better as removal, and a common line that I was constantly finding myself in is my opponent would have the attack token on 3, they would play their Draven, I would play their Draven, and then if I only had Thermo Beam, it's a really awkward situation. Either I'm taking the 3 damage from their Draven, or I'm blasting it for 6. Now I get to play my Draven, Get Excited their Draven, use my Spinning Axe. Now my Tri-Beams are ticked up for 2. And I just ultimately felt like this was the way to go. And I was going to stick to my guns on this one. I want to try it. I didn't really talk to too many players or test with any big name players. I tested with some friends that play the game that nobody's ever heard of because they don't really play tournaments, just to get the reps in. I played a lot of ladder because ultimately I did want this to be a form of self-expression. I wanted to see how far my knowledge could take me. So I didn't really consult with anybody on my lists. And if that ends up biting me in the ass, hey, I'm totally okay with that. I stuck to my guns. I wanted to see, if I was right about things like this. And I really only had 2 days to test, so I couldn't get too involved with it. But I'm feeling pretty good about this, to be honest. And then the one Guillotine over the 2 Scorched Earth, I didn't think a lot of the people were going to be bringing Targon Plaza. I figured Invoke with Atrocity was much more likely. Adele is a bit of a wild card. It's been a little bit since they've played a tournament, and Adele generally just plays solid decks. They're a little off meta, so it's very possible, but I know there's still a big debate between Targon Plaza and, Shadow Isle Invoke, so it's kind of hard to say, but I very well could be the only Plaza player in this tournament. And then I knew from the get-go that one of my decks was going to be a Mountain Scryer deck. I figured it was going to be the Atrocity deck because it's really all I've laddered with this season. It's the deck that I'm really confident in. If you've heard me cast, you hear me sing the praise of that deck all the time. But in testing, I just felt like the Plaza was helping me a lot more in the matchups that I expected to see at Fight Night. Especially in a Wraith-heavy meta, this does help a couple of cards get into the range of being fearsome blockers, like Lunari Duskbringer and Mountain Scryer and the Messenger. This list does look a little bit weird. This one had some last-minute changes. I wasn't running Pale Cascade, or Single Combat, rather. Initially, I was running Pale Cascade. I wasn't running Single Combat for quite some time, and then in testing the Draven Ezreal matchup, I found that it was actually really difficult to connect with my Solari Sunforgers. Generally, they were just getting stunned or softened up and then executed, and I wanted Single Combat as a way to ensure that I would get that lifesteal off in response to some kind of removal out of the PNZ Noxus matchup, as well as get double duty against the Mist Wraith decks. Also, I found myself a lot of times I would drop an Eclipse Dragon or an Aurelion Soul, and I'd have 2 mana available, and I think that Single Combat is just one of the most insane things that you can do with Eclipse Dragon on, whatever turn that you end up dropping it. And I think that one of the big power plays of Invoke is that the meta right now feels very 8-drop centric. Turn 8 is the power turn. Turn 7 is a little bit of a lull turn. And Eclipse Dragon is really the only playable 7-drop right now. So when we're getting into situations where on turn 8, you'll see a lot of players get into this weird pass situation where it's like, hey, if you play if you commit all your mana to playing your 8-drop, I'm just going to commit my mana to removing it. Sometimes we'll both get down our 8-drops, whatever. But I get down my Eclipse Dragon on 7. Now I have this massive threat while we're in this stalemated situation. And whatever 8-drop you play, I get to play Aurelion Soul. And if I have, Grand Plaza and it's my attack token, I get to Eclipse Dragon into Aurelion Soul, and then if you don't play anything, I'll just pass the turn. I'll take that pass every time. Because I'm getting value not only on the Aurelion Soul play, but the Aurelion Soul start of a round trigger, and I just floated you for an insane amount of mana. Now, Zoe Aurelion Soul is not the most common way to play Targon Plaza, but I really wanted to play a Zoe deck, and I feel like Aurelion Soul just fits into something like this so well. I don't know that this is the optimal champion lineup, but it is certainly my favorite champion lineup. And outside of that, I think this is a pretty standard list. The Moondreamer might look a little bit weird, but I've been screwing around with it. I had seen some other players in tournaments playing it for a while. I think I've been on this for a couple of weeks at this point. I just really like it. Oh, also, because it is 2 a.m., the Mobalytics links are here, but they're actually all still privated. They'll go live at noon tomorrow, and at that point, I'm going to find out what all the decks are compared to the notes on my testing, and that'll be like the second half of this video, right? I just wanted to let you know that right now I don't have access to these. Okay, so the deck list just went live, and the gist of it is that I'm fucked. I'm in a really rough spot. I was afraid that I might be a week behind on the meta, but I had thought that that would mean more Zoe Lee Sin rather than Gohard. I really did not expect this much Gohard, and the lack of Mystic Shot in my deck has caught up with me pretty immediately. Also, the bracket came out. I am going to be playing Deech round 1. Yeah, it looks like I just kind of got caught with my pants down a little bit here. Really did not expect this much Gohard, especially because I expected a lot of missed rates, and I was about right on the amount of missed rates that I expected to see. As far as players that I had nailed down exactly, Deech, obviously I didn't expect the Gohard, and honestly, there wasn't any public information as far as I could find that would really expect me to believe that there was going to be this much Gohard, although Jay Tamanda, I had thought, yeah, he'll probably play it. It's his most recent played deck on ladder. I had mentioned that Blazing Asian, while I pegged him for Draven as scouts, I said that he might be playing Burblefish Gohard, which he is. So really, I guess Deech is the wild card here that kind of threw me for a loop, and it's unfortunate that he is my round 1 opponent, and then my round 2 is the, if I lose to Deech, my round 2 is the loser of Jay Tamando and Blazing Asian, so I might just 0-2 to Gohard. So that is kind of bad beats on the bracket on my end. I'm not really going to complain about it. This actually is kind of a weight off my shoulders because now, like, I'm coming in kind of expecting to just get fucked here. Insolanato switched over to discard aggro, which makes sense. You know, he really picked up that Wraith list from Mo and ran with it and had a great time. They're teammates. It makes sense that Mo would be able to talk him into the discard aggro. There's as much as Draven as I expected there to be. There's even a Zoe Lee, which I thought there might be one. You know, didn't really have a lot of information on Ian Nagara, so he was a bit of a wild card. I think I had touched on his decks yesterday, but I didn't write him down. I don't know why I thought Macon Jackson was in this. I'm pretty sure they were like in the preliminary talks to be in this week, and then just something didn't work out. But yeah, I'm pretty screwed. About as much race as I expected, as I had said, so that's good. Adele brought Fiora Shen. I really thought that would have been Targon Plaza, if anything. I thought Adele was a pretty big frontrunner to bring Zoe Lee Sin, if anybody did. But my professional evaluation is that I'm pretty fucked. I don't think either of my lists handle Gohard particularly well, just because Draven Swain is much more susceptible to Ruination than Ezreal Draven is. So it is a little bit weird to me that people brought all these Ruination decks with Ezreal Draven being as popular as it is. There's actually only 2 Invoke players, so even if you were going for it for that reason, it's just really I brought the lineup that everybody was looking to pick on, and I'm like the only one that did. So that's unfortunate, but I'm still gonna, I'm gonna try my best. I'm gonna see what I can do, and next week I will be uploading probably VOD reviews of the games that I did, so look forward to that. But yeah, that is about it. It's about 2 o'clock now. I'm gonna, finish up my work, my day job. I'm on my lunch break right now. And then post this video. Probably might even like take a nap or something. I'm not really sure. I'm probably not going to play any warm-up games just because you think about playing in a Grand Prix. I would always wake up and then immediately go play. I didn't play warm-up games. I don't think that's something I need to do. So hopefully that doesn't play out against me. But it's not looking great for me, folks. 0-2 is expected, but it's nice to know that like it's because of the deck lineups just being unfavored for me rather than anything to do with my play. So I'm still going to play my best and see what I can do here. That lack of Mystic Shot's really going to screw me. I did not expect to have to play Gohard 2 matches in a row. Oh well. Anyway, that is going to do it for me. My name is Boulevard. Until next time, I hope you have better luck in your tournaments than I do.